What's up, everybody? It's your boy, Coach Vic, certified land investor, as you can see on my hoodie. Today is March 29th, 2023. Hopefully everything is going okay for you. So I want to make this quick video because I had a question in my group about how to invest when you are busy. Maybe you have another job, you have another business, you have something else going on that kind of makes you a little hesitant to actually jump into land investing, or maybe you know that it can be profitable for you and you want to see how you can use that to actually escape that job, but you still need the time to do it, to learn the skills and all that. So hopefully this video will give you some ideas and some tips to actually make that happen. All right, so first things first, let's think about this. You want to start, right? And you want to get going, and you know, like anything, you're learning a high income skill. It's going to take time. It's going to take energy. It's going to take patience. It's going to take all these things before you can start to see the real fruits of your labor. Now, in my coaching group, I have people, the fastest person who gone from a complete newbie to I've sold my first property, it's been a month. I have so far no one been able to beat that. The average time is roughly about 2 to 3 months. So somewhere within that time, I don't have anything in front of me, since the average time is not really a time, it's more of a general range. But in general, in a couple of months, if you follow my process, you do exactly what I tell you to do, you're going to be successful, and it's going to happen fairly quickly. And then once the person sees the power of land investing, they kind of just boom, oh, I got it. And then some people can actually start to make plans right away to actually start to quit their job, or make the land investing thing a full-time thing. Now, before that, when people are learning the skill, it doesn't matter if they're learning with me or just in general how we do things. When you're trying to learn something new and you have a demanding job, it could be very overwhelming, right? You could feel like you're always tired, like you never have enough time. And this is sometimes why it feels like things aren't happening fast enough, because that feeling of overwhelm never goes away, at least not early on, because you're not seeing the results. You're not getting out of the pain that you just put yourself into, because your job sucked already, or maybe it didn't suck. It probably sucks. But if it didn't suck, and the reason why you're doing this is so you can have more income, jumping into this and doing your regular job feels out. I don't want to say terrible, but it doesn't feel great in most cases, just because you either really want to do the land stuff and the job is like, it's holding me down, but then you need that job to pay for your life and to, save up a little bit money for your first investment. So it's tough. So what I'm going to share with you is, number one, how can you actually start to navigate that feeling and what to actually do about it. All right, so the first thing you got to do, whether you are looking to quit, whether you're looking to do this on a busy schedule, it doesn't matter. You got to get very clear with your intentions with land investing. If you come at it with the wishy-washy, I just want to make a little bit more money, that ain't going to cut it. Because when times get tough, I just need a little bit more money. It won't seem that important. So it's like, I don't need that much money. Or I can find it a different way. Or I'll take a break now and I'll come back to when I really need money. And by then it's too late. So you got to be very clear and intentional. Now, the reason why you want to do this is very important, because it's going to kind of dictate how you can carve up your time to actually learn these skills, or if you already know the skills, to carve up your time to actually do what you need to do daily. The good news is, I say it all the time, you don't need a ton of time to do this, but it can feel like a ton of time when you don't know what's happening, you don't know if you're doing things right. Or early on, you need more time than you will as you kind of get things rolling. All right, so listen, we all got a lot of stuff going on. So think about why we want to do this and how you want to carve up your time. Meaning, do you want to be intentional with this because you need a certain amount of money to do a certain one-time thing? Are you looking for a lifestyle change? Are you looking just to supplement what you're doing, but you don't want to quit that day job? That's very important. Different ways or different answers will give you different approaches. For example, if I want to make this my full-time thing, I have to learn how to build systems and put them in place that will actually help me to free myself so I can actually dedicate more time to the land stuff. Or if I'm actually going to just supplement this for a one-time purchase, then I can kind of take my time. I don't need to dedicate as much time to it. if I'm going to do this for a sustained thing, so I'm going to keep my 9 to 5 for as long as I want to, but do this on the side, then the type of systems I probably will develop will probably, not always, I'll say sometimes, be a little different than what I would develop if I'm actually looking to, whether I'm doing this to do with full-time versus doing a part-time thing for the foreseeable future. Next, let's think about some of the time-intensive tasks a land investor has to do. Now, obviously, it's not as time-intensive as other things that you have to do in your day, but again, you got to do something about this. So there is the research portion, finding areas to invest in. That doesn't take a ton of time. You don't got to do it every day, but I'll add it in there just in case, because I'll have a tip for you to do that in a moment. There's the portion to actually contact owners, and there's ways to do it. We'll get into that. There's a tip to actually communicate, negotiate with people, and keeping them straight. And then there's the marketing sales, so where you're actually, when you own a property, you're selling it to somebody, and you gotta, put up ads and things of that nature. So with those things, those are the things we break it down. Again, doing the research, contacting owners, negotiation, and then actually selling, which is a different sort of negotiation. Okay. Now, when you are actually starting to do this, and you want to do it for real, and you're looking to research areas. Number one, as I said, you don't have to do the research every day, but it should be somewhat regular. Maybe once a month, maybe once every 2 weeks, maybe once a quarter. It'll depend on you. You can also break it down to smaller chunks. So this is what I like to do. I like to research areas in small little batches, make a small list of different counties, towns, and other things like that I can look up later on. So let's say I'm sitting there watching the Warriors play, and I'm on my phone playing solitaire, and I'm like, you know what, I should be looking up something. So I go on Zillow, move the map. You guys know how I do the thing. I showed you in the free training. If you don't have the free training, hit me up. I'll send it to you. And I'm like, okay, this place looks interesting. And I'll write down the, if it fulfills some kind of requirement or something jumps out at me, like, hey, the prices here are great, meaning this is in my budget, or I really want this type of payday, so I'm going to figure out how to make that happen. Or maybe you see like, damn, these things are flying off the shelf. I'm looking at the sold comps. I'm looking at what's on the market. I'm looking at the views and all that. And a lot of people are interested here. Maybe I should get into this market too. Maybe not. I got to do deeper research. So what I'll do is take all of those interesting places, make a nice little list. And then when it's time to do that research once a month, once a week, once a whatever, I got a list to kind of do a little bit more in-depth research on to see like, hey, was that fool's gold, or is there something really here? All right. So again, in your spare time, you don't need a ton of time to kind of build up that list. Again, I do it when I'm watching TV or watching sports. I don't really watch TV these days, but when I'm watching NBA, then I'll do it because I don't have to watch every single play unless it's an important play. And okay, that's not important. It's not important. But I'll have that. And then when I'm researching, if I'm sitting down in front of a computer for the next 20, 30 minutes to do research, I have a list that I can go through and then do that. And then because the way I like to do things, I buy my list from like PropStream or DataTree. I can just like, okay, I did the research. I looked at it on PropStream or DataTree or wherever I'm getting the list from. Seems good. Let me pull this list. Let me add it to my system so I can start to contact these folks or get these names skip traced. All right, so that's the part of the research that happened. If you do that right, it won't take a lot of time. You can do it on the weekends. It's not like you can do it at night. You can do it whenever because you're not communicating with anybody. You're just kind of using your investor's eyes that if you work with me, I teach you how to develop. If you're working with somebody else or by yourself, hopefully you understand what makes a good property or a good area from a bad area, so that way you're not wasting your time. Okay, next. So now when we're talking about actually communicating with people, we made our list. We want to communicate with people. How do we do this when we're busy? Well, personally, I like to promote two different paths to actually communicate with people, texting and mailers. Now, of course, you can email, you can do voice drops, you can do all types of different things. But these are the two that I like for a busy schedule. Now, mailer is going to be more conducive to that busy schedule. Why? Because you have a list, you send it out once, and you just wait for people to return your phone call to say, hey, I got your postcard, I got your letter, whatever it is, I do want to sell. Or if you're doing the offer letter route, I don't recommend it because it's a waste of money, but you do you, boo. They'll send you your offer or your purchase agreement back or whatever, however your offer agreement. I forget how you guys phrase it these days. And then you call them up. All right. So what I like to do is when I send out the postcard, all right, I'm at work, and this is what I used to do when I was still a software engineer. People will call me, but I'll always let the phone go to voicemail. It was a different line. It wasn't my personal phone. And when they will call, it'll go to voicemail. And I used Google Voice at the time. I don't use it anymore because I use something else, not because it's better, just, well, it's better for my needs, not necessarily it's a better service. But Google Voice will take that voicemail and transcribe it so I can read it while I'm working. Like, okay. And then I can see, is this person actually looking to sell right away? Or are they here trying to be like, why did you send me this? I don't know taxes. What are you talking about? And they're kind of ignorant to what's going on. Well, if I see that they're ignorant, or they just say, hey, I don't want to sell, because I put that in my voicemail, then I'm like, okay, mental note, or I mark it down in my system, whatever I do, and I keep moving my day. I don't really spend a lot of time. It took me like, 4 seconds to read the little voicemail transcription, and I keep moving. If it is someone that wants to sell, in the voicemail, I say, hey, leave a message, use your reference ID number so I know who you are, blah, blah, blah. In that transcription, hopefully I can read it, and I can, during my lunch break or when I'm home, look up that person's information, right? Notice that because they left a voicemail, I can look things up at my time. And what my plan to do is I can call them back when it's more appropriate. Sometimes I can text them back, depending on the number, who did. If it's an elderly person, texting is probably not the way to go. But when it's someone a little bit younger, they probably prefer texting. So again, now I can go at my own speed. And the beautiful thing about texting, which we'll talk about in a moment, you don't have to be a super fast responder, right? That's the beauty of text. Anyways, because I set things up that way, I can get back to the people on my own time. So depending on what your schedule is like for your day-to-day work, you may have a time carved out for lunch, for some breaks. Maybe it's just, you can do it whenever you want, but you still got to do it when you have the freedom to do so. Then you can do that. Now you can get back to people on your time. And the beautiful thing is about that as well, just because they called you doesn't mean when you call them back, they're going to be available. So even if you don't have a ton of time always, sometimes just calling them back, leaving a message, letting them know, hey, I'm interested. This is what I found. You can do all that. Now, I wouldn't negotiate via the voicemail, but just laying down the groundwork and everything about the property, about what you know, about the price range you're in, if it doesn't already say so in the offer that you gave them, can actually go a long way from saving you time. Because if they're not interested in your price range, there's no need to talk. You're not going to convince anybody to sell something for a price they're not comfortable with. So, for example, they want to get $30,000 for the property, and you know damn well you're not going to pay more than $7,000. You guys are too far apart. There's no way you're going to make it work. And if you guys can figure that out from a couple of voicemails or text messages, then you're also saving yourself some time. So again, the name of the game is how to be efficient with your time, so while you're busy and you don't neglect your main source of income while you're building up this new source of income. Now, when it comes to texting itself, if you're going to contact people via texting and not mailers, texting takes more time because you're sitting there and you're like, okay, I need to text this person, and all right, okay, you want to sell? Ooh, yeah. You know, I get my birdie, you know what I mean? My Bodie hands. And so when you're doing that, yeah, you're going to need to sit there. Now, depending on your job, maybe that's okay. Personally, I couldn't do that, not because of my job, because I can't task switch that or context switch that quickly. Because I'm doing the text and like, okay, whatever problem I'm trying to solve in software, my train of thought is gone now. So it's hard for me to go back and forth. So again, since it's text, I can reply to it whenever I want. However, me personally, I know myself, I get anxious because I hate when people leave me hanging thinking it's a conversation via text. So like, I want to get back to that person ASAP. Knowing myself, I don't like, all right, well, I know how it is. I'm not going to text people when I can't respond to them. So if you know you're like that, great. Don't text while you're working, because even though you do have the time, because again, it's a text message, it's not an emergency, you may still have that on your brain and it may be tough for you to work. But with those two methods, mailers and have them call a voicemail, calling your voicemail with specific instructions, or just doing the two text so you can actually kind of do it while you're working. Two options that you can do to actually contact owners while you have a busy schedule without jeopardizing your job or your primary source of income. Now, when it comes to negotiation, we kind of touched on this a little bit. You know, we're using texting and voicemail, you know, playing phone tag a little bit to kind of get the conversation started. And I also mentioned that you can call them back when you have the time. Hopefully, what you will do, you can text or call, leave a voicemail like, hey, I am tell me when you are available for a phone call. I'm available here, here, and here. The reason why you want to do that, you don't want to give the prospect carte blanche of your time. Be like, look, I'm available for this time, and this time, and make sure it aligns in your schedule. I want to tell you, ask some questions about the property, this and that. Let me know which of those 2 or 3 options work for you, right? You don't want to give them too many options. You know, you just want to give them 1 or 2 options that hopefully will work. And if none of them work, you guys can figure out like, all right, hey, I said noon, 2 p.m. and 4 p.m. None of those times seem to work for you. Okay, let's see if we can work something else out, you know, and you'll figure out, hey, is that just for today those times don't work, or is it just because of their work schedule? And then like maybe you have to do a call in the evening when you're off work. Maybe you do a call in the morning before you go to work, right? But the point is you're getting around the work thing so you can actually focus on what you do. Now these negotiation calls, you should only need to do once, especially if you do a little preliminary conversation with texting or just leaving voicemails and stuff like that. And the conversation itself, 10 minutes, if that. You don't need a ton of time. You're basically trying to make sure that you have the right person. You're trying to make sure the property is what you think it is. You're trying to look to see if there's any issues that you should be aware of. You're also trying to devalue the property in their minds so they don't keep asking for something that's outrageous. And then you want to strike up that deal. And as soon as you get that deal, if it's a substantial one, go ahead and send that purchase agreement via DocuSign, EverSign, or some other electronic form. Again, have it ready to go. Have a template ready to go. You can do that in DocuSign, you can do that in EverSign, where you can just fill in the blanks, name, price, and whatever else. Send it off to them. Have them email, digitally sign it, email it back. Boom, now you have it locked up. All right. So notice I actually glossed over two different systems without actually mentioning them. First is the postcard to voicemail like flow, where you give them a postcard, you say give me a call. When they call you, it goes straight to voicemail with specific instructions, and then you can get back to them on your own. That's the system there. That's how I handle a lot of inflow without having to overwhelm myself. And then the second one is what I just mentioned, the conversation that you're having for the negotiation, and then having your purchase agreement ready to go. So as soon as you guys have something you guys agree on, fill in the blank, their name, their email, the price, send it. Boom, now it's locked up. All right, so after negotiation, you do now how are you going to acquire the property itself? How are you going to buy it? All that. So I use cashier's checks. I used to have to go through my lunch break to go down to the bank and everything. And what I will also do, since I will send it through a USPS, you don't realize it, but look at that. Look at that. I get a lot of these Priority Express envelopes. You can get those, just grab them, right? The post office wants you to take them. So you can have them ready. You can use them here, have it ready to go, get the return envelopes. You can buy the stamps you need, or you can click and ship on USPS.com. Just, put in their information. Go ahead and say, okay, this is the stamp I want. Print it out, tape it to the envelope. Good to go. The only issue with click and ship is that it only works for the day of. You have to know the exact day of shipping, so you can't use it for your return envelope. But it works out pretty well. You can also just get regular stamps that you just put on the envelope. You have a $26 stamp, a $30 stamp, and all that. So you can do that, have that ready. So then I'll go to on my lunch break to get the cashier's check. Boom, done. Put it in the envelope, put it the deed for them to notarize, drop it off in the blue mailbox. I'm done for the rest of the day. Simple. Now, if you're going through title, then it's even easier, because you take that purchase agreement that you guys digitally signed, you forward that to the title agreement or title company. Like, hey, this is the property. This is their contact info. This is my contact info. Let me know when it's time to sign, or when I get the property, or whatever it is, or I got to wire the money. And boom, there it is. Again, you don't need a ton of time to do that. So it's very easy to make these things happen. So to recap, so far, we're researching on our spare time. Right, we'll carve out a small amount of time during our weekend or night or whatever to actually do a little bit deeper research, and then build that list, or actually buy that list. We'll send that list off during that time, because a lot of times it works, and then people will contact us. We get back to them on our own time. We negotiate on our own time, and we use whatever pockets of the day we have to get our errands done, to get a cashier's check, whatever. And if we're not using self-closing, we use a title company, and it makes it real simple. Now, when it comes to actually selling, the last piece that takes a lot of your time, granted, when you're doing due diligence, you can do that at night as well. So you decide to buy and all that. Do your due diligence at night, or whenever you have time, when you don't have any distractions, so you can make sure you're making a good investment. But you bought the property, it's yours, everything is fine, and now it's time to sell. Well, you can put the ad up at any time, right? Most of the time, I always recommend using the digital space to advertise your property. Land Watch, Facebook Marketplace, different land sites, all those things, right? Those are open 24/7, and then people will be searching for those 24/7. So it'll be a similar process when people are actually inquiring about buying the property as it was when you're selling. You have them call. It can go straight to voicemail if you want, or you can pick up. Obviously, talking to a prospect while they're calling you is going to be best. No maybes about it, right? Having them go to voicemail, maybe leave a voicemail, maybe not leave a voicemail, right? You're making the conversion rate a little lower because, you want to strike while the iron is hot. However, again, sometimes it's not always possible, and that's okay. People will still hit you up, and a lot of people will definitely text you. So if you put in your ads, text me so I can get back to you faster, or you put that in your voicemail. And yes, you may want a second line, so your voicemail for your acquisition and your voicemail for your sales aren't the same. That you can do that. That's what I currently do. Maybe you just have one voicemail that just says be very specific, and you give them specific instructions like, hey, if you're selling me land, do this. If you're buying land, do that. You can do that too. I'm not sure how well that works. I don't know if that helps or hurts your conversions or not. I don't know. That's something you'll have to test. But either way, you'll be able to answer people the same way that you did with the acquisitions, meaning you get to them when you can. Not everybody who's calling you, even though you do want to strike while the iron's hot, is ready to buy anyways. So we don't have to act like it's some kind of emergency to get back to these people or to answer the phone. You do want to get back to them ASAP. And again, if they're texting you, that's great, because hopefully your job would allow you to text a little bit to kind of get that property sold. But in reality, what you're going to do, and I have a whole intensive things about sales and land. A lot of people don't really talk about sales and land. I still don't know why. I've been asking this question since I opened this group and still don't have an answer. I can only assume they think, oh my God, they'll still customers for me, whatever. But if you are talking to somebody, most likely they're not ready to buy right then and there anyways. You got to get them to the next step of the buyer's journey. Some people are just kind of curious. Some people are there, they know they want land, but they're not sure where they should buy yet. So there's certain questions that need to get answered. They got to call the county for certain things, all that. And then obviously you have the people who are looking at the property, who went to visit it, and they're trying to negotiate a deal. Depending on where they are on that journey will dictate how much time and attention you give them. If they're still early on, where they still don't even know if they really want land, you're not going to convince them to get it. They have to want it themselves. You can give them some information. You can be as pleasant as possible, and that's all you can do. You don't need a lot of time to do that, right? You don't even need to call them for that. In fact, I don't recommend a phone call for that if you can avoid it. Keep it text. Save your time. If they're in that point where they're, hey, I want land. I'm not sure where I want it. I know the region that you're selling is an area where I want land, and is your land right for me? You're right. They're going to have some questions. You definitely want to get on the phone with these folks. Short conversation though, right? Answer a couple of questions. Say, hey, you should definitely visit it. Nothing like boots on ground to see if this property is going to be right for you. Oh, you have some questions about zoning and this and that. Let me answer them for you. Or, you know what? I don't know what that answer is, but you know who does? This person. Now, it is dangerous sending them off in the wild, meaning call the county, call this, call that, because they probably won't do it. Or if they do, they won't ask properly and get a bad answer, making your property look worse than what it is. So if you can have those answers ready, even better. Or if you can call the county when you have your lunch break to get that answer, because if they ask it, somebody else is probably going to ask it too. That's good too. And then if they're, after they saw the property and they're like, hey, I want to buy it, or you got to check in with them, because that's going to be the key. Sometimes you got to follow up with them. Then you're trying to negotiate a price. All right. So those 4 ways are ways you can kind of make this happen. See how you can kind of do things on your own time. I talked about the stuff that is most time sensitive and things that you need to do during daylight hours. Everything else can be done at night. It can be in the middle of the night. It can be done on weekends. A lot of stuff probably can be done on weekends too, especially the sales conversations. When you're looking to sell, you'll get a lot more conversations and people calling you on a Saturday and a Sunday than you do on a Monday or a Tuesday. That's when everybody else who is also working have their breaks on the weekend. So that's when they can look at property. That's when they can browse online. That's when they can dream and all that other stuff. Now, you may be asking, is there anything else that I need to know? Well, early on, no. Later on, as you get better, bigger, stronger, you're going to probably need some people to work under you. That's when you're hiring a VA comes in handy. That's when using different like CRMs and everything else comes in handy. You can start your CRM journey now, meaning getting a CRM, starting to integrate yourself with it, working with it, and all that. It definitely helps while you're working your regular 9 to 5 to make that happen. but it's not necessary, not yet. It will be, but not for your first deal. It definitely does help, though. I'm not going to say it's unnecessary because it doesn't help. It does help, but I'd much rather you get a deal the old-fashioned way and actually do the work than you getting caught up on what CRM to get and how do I use it, and it's stopping you from doing the things that actually produce sales or get you properties and selling them. All right. Okay. All right. Now, early on, before I wrap this up, I did say you got to be very intentional with what you're going to do and how you're going to do it. Do you need money for a one-time thing? Do you need money ongoing? Is this going to be a side hustle forever, or are we going to slowly transition into this being a full-time gig? Now, I don't have any more time because I try to keep these short as possible, and I already went over time already. But the answer, as I said earlier, to those questions, how do you want this to go, will dictate how much of this stuff you'll be able to actually offload early on, and how much you'll be able to just kind of take the blueprint with what I did when I was working a regular job and making it happen. How did I transition? Well, you know my story. I didn't transition smoothly. I didn't do it smart, but if I was able to do it again today, I would do what I was doing, do a little bit every day or whatever, at a regular interval, and just start to use less and less of my capital from work to fund the business until the business is self-sustaining. And usually it doesn't take long for that to happen, especially since you're working already and you don't need to use work money to pay for the land, like the different bills and all that, unless you bought too much too soon. Again, this is why you don't buy a CRM early on. Anyways, once you have a sizable war chest, I would say 6 months of savings that will pay for your business and your current living expenses saved up from land, then you can walk away. Also, if you have a couple of terms deals making money for you and all that, that might speed things up where you don't need as much of a cushion. I don't recommend trying to, be impatient, but sometimes things happen where out of your control, where you didn't plan to leave your job, but the job left you. But if you have a couple of term deals bringing in some money, you got a sizable cushion, then you should be okay. You might struggle for a little bit, like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm doing this without the comfort of my 9-to-5, paying for my life and everything, and now I have less money to invest in land because I'm paying for food and rent and all that. But you'll figure it out. So it's very important that you get very intentional with how you do things. It's very important that you actually do the work. Doesn't matter why you're doing this. If you don't do the work, you're not going to make it. You're not going to make it. So hopefully that answers your question. How do you do this when you're busy? What things you got to work on? How do you make this happen? Right? I think that's it. Now, if you need help doing any of the things I talked about, setting up systems, trying to do this when you're working, transitioning from doing it from part-time to full-time, you probably need my help in land a little bit. Probably need my coaching help a little bit. There's a lot that I can tell you about the coaching, but if you really want to know, we can book a time. I can give you the details. But in general, not only do I walk you through your first couple of deals, but I have access to funding for deals. I have access to note buyers. I have access to just different things that you won't get from free resources. You won't get from free stuff. Obviously, working with me is not going to be cheap, but you're going to be making tens of thousands of dollars, so you're rich now. Who cares? With that said, if you found this useful, let me know. Put in the comments. Say something. Hit me up. You have questions, ask. I love to answer these questions. Hopefully you found something that you can use right now to help you start this land thing. If you thought you were too busy because of work or whatever, hopefully I gave you some info and some insights of how you can make this happen without taking up all of your time, but making it fit in with your schedule. That's the beauty about this business. But yeah, other than that, enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.